Good. We've got quite a few more people who have joined into the session. So I think we can get going. So once again, a very warm welcome to this question and answer session about the biology course at the University of Portsmouth. In particular, I would like to welcome any of you who join us from abroad. We do have a number of international applicants, and of course, we are very pleased that our course attracts people from all over the world. So my name is Frank Schubert. I'm the course leader for biology. And in this session, what I would like to do is, first of all, give you an overview of the biology course, and most importantly, of course, answer your questions. Please feel free to post any questions or comments anytime in the chat. And either I will answer them, any question about the course itself, or also in the background, we've got Josh and Catherine, who will answer any kind of questions that you've got about, general questions about Portsmouth, or questions in particular regarding international applicants. So once you have decided to go to university, there are really three main questions that you have to answer, and that is what you would like to study, where to study, and particularly this year also, when to start your studies. So what I would try to do is help you, first of all, with the first two questions. And I would assume that you may have some queries about the final question as well. So many years ago, far too many years, I found myself in the same situation that you are in now, which is finishing school and then deciding which direction I would like to take. And for me, biology was particularly attractive. I always was interested in science, really trying to understand the world around us and how it works. But in particularly, how life functions, I found particularly challenging. So as you can probably tell from my accent, I studied in Germany, first general biology in Kiel, and then I focused on molecular genetics in Heidelberg. And that's also when I did my first venture into research. I did placement at the European Molecular Biology Laboratory, where I was working on oncogenes. So these are genes that cause cancer. Then for my PhD, I switched to Göttingen, and I also switched field to the field that I'm still working in, which is developmental biology. And that is the branch of biology that tries to answer the question how a whole organism is formed from just one cell, which is the fertilized egg or the zygote. I then moved to the UK for my postdoc. I worked for a while at King's College London before I was appointed as a lecturer at the University of Portsmouth. So why would you want to study biology? I guess each one of you will have your own reasons. But really two aspects stand out for me. And that is, biology includes really everything from the molecules that make up life, all the way to the interaction of organisms with their environment. But really importantly, biology is at the core of many global challenges. And I think there was one question that one of you had, which really relates to that, and that is, what kind of jobs can you go on to do in biology? When you're thinking about where biology impacts your daily life, it's in a lot of areas, being it health, being it global challenges like climate change, being it food security. And these are all the areas in which biologists find employment. So what we find is when we look at where our graduates are going, many of them go to the large biotechnology sector. That could be pharmaceutical industry, the food industry, areas like that. Quite a number of people, depending on their interests, end up in the environmental sector. It could be environmental consultancy firms or the Environment Agency, for example, so government as well. It can be in teaching. It can also be in science administration, science communication. So when you're thinking, for example, about the textbooks that you're already using now, there are people, of course, who publish these, and quite often these are biology graduates who are working on this. And last not least, when you're doing a science degree, and that is not restricted to biology, I should say, you're learning a lot of skills that many employers, not just in our area, find very attractive. The ability to solve problems, the ability to communicate very clearly, time management, things like teamwork. These are all skills that are really important in any kind of employment. So a number of our graduates end up in areas that have really nothing much to do with biology, but are professional jobs. So when you're looking now at the course, I guess you will be interested to see what the course in Portsmouth is going to be like. There's a question that coming up that relates to that already, and that's the question whether biology would be sufficient to go into marine biology research, or if it is better to study a specific marine biology degree. So this is something that really depends on your interest more than anything else. Certainly it is possible with biology to get into marine biology. On the other hand, if you already know that marine biology is where your main interest lies, then it might be better to go for the specialist degree. In Portsmouth, we offer biology as a very broad degree, and we come later to how the degree is organized. And the attraction there is really the flexibility of the course. But we also have two specialist courses, biochemistry and marine biology. So it really depends on what you already know, what you're interested in. If you know that your interest is very specialist already, then you might prefer a specialist course. If you're not quite sure yet and you want to keep your options open, then a flexible course like biology would be better. Another question is how competitive the course is to get into. Well, I guess you've seen the criteria, the entry criteria that we have, which is 112 UCAS points. It is, I mean, that is challenging, obviously. You didn't have exams this year, but you know how hard it is to get good grades. But on the other hand, I think we typically find people who are really keen on the course will make it work. It is not as competitive as maybe some of the very restricted courses in the health sector. So we don't have a set number of students that we can accept per year. So with that respect, it's a bit of a mixture. You need to get good grades, but it's definitely achievable. So when you're looking at courses across the country, you will find that many universities offer something that is called biology or biological sciences. Now, when you're looking at biology courses at something like A level, you will find that they are very, very similar to each other because they are regulated by the body that runs these courses. So an Edexcel biology course looks the same no matter where you're doing it. That is very different for university courses. So for university courses, even though they may sound the same, it's very important to look at the detail. So in Portsmouth, our philosophy is that we offer biology in its full breadth. So that means we are really covering biology from the molecular basis to ecological interactions. And we are laying the foundations for that in the first year. The first year is where students have no choice. All of the modules are core, because this is where we lay the foundation for all basic aspects of biology. We give you ideas about the molecular and cellular basis of life. We will talk about biodiversity, the range of different organisms. We will talk about the evolutionary processes that gave rise to the tree of life. And we will talk about ecology and the organisms in the different ecosystems. Also in the first year, we will start developing practical skills and field skills, which are really important for an experimental science like biology. Also alongside what we are working on is already these kind of transferable skills and study skills that are really important to keep you going during the 3 years and beyond that. So things like essay writing, how to access and cite literature, and also how to give presentations. So I've got a couple of questions coming in. Do we need to continue studies with a postgraduate degree after undergraduate biology to pursue a career as a microbiologist? That is a really good question. And when we are looking at where our graduates go, so there's statistics for everything, but in this case, what do people do right after graduation? We find that about half of our graduates go on to do postgraduate studies. So that already gives you a bit of an idea. It depends a lot on what your ambitions are. If you really want to take a leading role in microbiology research, for example, then you will have to go on to postgraduate studies, probably master's and eventually a PhD. If you just want to work in a microbiology lab, then this principally would be possible already with an undergraduate qualification. And then a big question, what are the labs like in biology? What equipment do we use? Obviously, I mean, I emphasize the practical skills for a reason, because practical skills are important in biology. In the first year, it's really about basic equipment. So using automatic pipettes, using balancers, using centrifuges, getting to grips with health and safety in the lab. In particular, in microbiology, working safely with microbes is really important. I mean, we all know about the dangers that that are associated with microorganisms. We work with bacteria rather than viruses, but still. So the first years, with that respect, really the kind of basic skills, how to work safely and competently in a lab. Thereafter, it depends on your choices, and that's what is really the hallmark of the biology degree in Portsmouth. It offers you to really tailor the degree to your interests. So what I said, the first year is all core. This all changes in second and third year, where hardly anything is core and most is up to your own choices. So let's say if you are more interested in ecology and the environmental biology, then there will be some labs, in particular microscopy skills and things like that you need to learn. But a lot will be focused on field skills, doing field work. If your interest is more in genetics, cell biology, then you will do a lot more work with molecular genetics, for example. So using bacteria to grow plasmids, do DNA preparations, do PCR, do gel electrophoresis. And then it depends a lot in the third year also on what you do in your project. Each project is different. But in the projects, if you do a practical projects, you will have the chance to use research equipment. That could be equipment for genetic manipulation of organisms. So you might have heard about genome editing, CRISPR-Cas. That's something that we do in the university. And some undergraduates do projects in that, for example. So hopefully that gives you already a bit of an idea about the labs. So principally the undergraduate labs, since you can't be here in person in a moment, would like to explain a little bit more how we are doing the labs. So we've got teaching labs. We've got a number of these. The largest one takes 80 students maximum, but normally it's about 50 students or so in the lab. Other ones are smaller. And these labs will be laid out with the equipment that you need for that particular practical. In the practical, of course, you are surrounded by other students who are in the same position as you. You've got the lecturer leading the practical, and you've got postgraduate students who work as demonstrators who help you with the practical. The practicals are typically something like 2 to 3 hours long. You will have instructions how to do them. And of course, you will have advice throughout to help you along with the practical. So what does Portsmouth have that makes it stand out? You have to decide between Portsmouth and Aberdeen. And you would like to know what can tip the balance in favor of Portsmouth. Well, A flippant answer would be if you go to Aberdeen in winter, you will find it's very dark. But of course, in summer, it's right the opposite. Now, every university has its hallmarks, things that are really good at the university that stand out. When you're looking at Portsmouth for biology, I think there are a number of aspects that you really want to take into consideration. One thing is the flexibility that I already mentioned. So second and third year gives you the chance to tailor your degree very much to what you like. We've got 3 broad streams: cell and molecular biology, microbiology and biotechnology, and ecology and evolution. These reflect the research expertise of the staff, because our teaching, in particular in second and third year, is very much aligned with the research, and we very much work with current research literature as well in that. I think another area that really is important is to look at teaching quality. And there you've got a number of measures for that. One is the Teaching Excellence Framework, the TEF, where Portsmouth was one of the few universities in the Southeast that achieved the gold rating. And when you're looking at league tables, of course, can tell also all sorts of different stories, but in the Guardian league table, which emphasizes very much teaching quality, we are currently ranked 3rd for bioscience, just behind Cambridge and Oxford. So that gives you a bit of an idea, I think, what makes Portsmouth stand out. So what is the teaching like is another really good question. Teaching at university, studying at university is very different from what you are used to in college or sixth form. In the moment, or pre-COVID-19, a lot of the teaching was based on lectures. And then we have workshops. Workshops are, so the lectures are basically where one of us stands in front of a large number of students and we talk about it. We try to make it interactive as much as possible. But still, it's a very much upfront teaching. Workshops are very different. Workshops are highly interactive. It's usually a small number of students and we discuss particular problems, particular issues there. We've got tutorials and we start with the tutorials right from the first week that you're starting, which are even smaller, very much personal, and they include also one-to-one sessions. Then we've got the labs, so the practicals that we already talked about, and likewise field trips. So that's the kind of range of teaching activities. Obviously, coming up, starting in October, what the teaching is going to be like. We will depend on government guidelines on that. I think it's fair to assume that at least some of the teaching will be done online, which will be slightly different also in how we emphasize our teaching to what we have done in the past. If that is the case, then I guess much of the content will be delivered online and at your own pace. And then we will have interactive sessions where we discuss what you have been reading, what you have been looking up, answer any kind of questions that you may have, and explore these topics further. So what should you be doing to prepare for joining in October? Most importantly, just enjoy the time off. But in terms of real preparation, have a look back at what you did at A-level. Or your BTEC course, depending on what your qualification is. There is quite a lot of information in your textbook that, in particular, since you didn't have to sit the exam, might have gone into the background. So the more you can bring that kind of knowledge back up front, the better. There are lots of websites about biology that you can use. Starting with even BBC Science, getting headlines, getting things that are interesting. I think it's very important. The most important thing about studying science is curiosity. So if you find that there is something interesting, something that you would like to find out more about, then this is excellent preparation. Try to find out as much about this topic as you can. It may never come up in any kind of assessments, but then at the end of the day, you're not studying biology to sit assessments. You're studying biology because you want to find out more about biology, more about the subject area, more about actually how life functions. Good. What is the most challenging thing about the course? I think that's difficult to say what the most challenging thing is. And different students find different aspects challenging. I think what is challenging generally, starting university, is to get to grips with the independent study that you're meant to do. Whereas so far in college, in sixth form, you get quite a lot of guidance. We will give you guidance, we will give you help, we will give you advice, and you will have quite close contact, in particular with your tutor, but also with the other lecturers. But still, studying at university is very much a situation of designing your own learning. And I think this is something that people find challenging. Something that definitely is challenging is to find out which areas of biology you're really interested in, but what you want to focus on in your studies. Again, we give you help and guidance along the way when it comes to making your choices. And I think another aspect that people find challenging is working with the current research literature. That's something that we really emphasize a lot, in particular in third year, but already starting in second year, looking really at not only what is the knowledge that we have about biology, but how do we get there? What is the evidence on which what we tell you is based? And that is very exciting. That's what makes science really interesting, and that's what science is all about. But at the same time, I think people can find that challenging, getting to grips to that. How important is that we start looking around, making decisions and preparing to start university in 2021? Obviously, it's important to look ahead. I think you've got a bit of time to make your decisions, but then not that much time, because come autumn, you have to start certainly deciding which kind of course you want to get onto and also which universities. So I think it's really important to have a look at, first of all, subject areas, and there maybe you get guidance also from your sixth form school or college. But then also having a look, once you have an idea about the subject area, then we're looking at universities. First of all, online. There's a lot of information that you can find online. Have a look at Unistats, at kind of comparative websites, what they can tell you as well. And get an idea for yourself what your priorities are. So what do you suggest that we could write in our personal statement that would help with admission into Portsmouth? I don't think that there's anything particular about Portsmouth that you can write or that you should write into your personal statement. What you like to see in a personal statement is really that you tell us more about your motivation. What is it? Why is it that you want to study biology? What inspires you to study biology? Where maybe, if you have ideas already, what you want to do with it, where you want to go, then tell us about that. Not all of you will be at the stage yet. I mean, we always have quite a number of our students who study biology, who start biology with an idea, yeah, it's an area I would like to know more about, but what I will do with it, I haven't got a clue. That's absolutely fine. You've got 3 years to figure that out. But anything that brings the person behind the application out, I think this is what the personal statement is for. What can we do to make our applications stand out from others? I think the personal statement is really the key part of that. I mean, the other aspect are the grades. And the grades, of course, is something, I mean, you know better than I do probably how they're going to be determined this year. But in the personal statement, that's where you can tell us anything that the grades themselves don't tell. Maybe you've got some personal experience that has inspired you to study biology. Tell us about it, because otherwise we won't know. Maybe you've got particular ideas, particular interests. Maybe you already have done something. Maybe you've done already some volunteering in conservation societies, anything like that. And that will be absolutely personal. Not everybody has got that. some people may have these kind of practical experience, these kind of placements, anything like that. Others will have other aspects that stand out in different ways. I don't think that there's any one thing that really stands out. We would like to see, in particular, now that we can't see you in person, we would like to see, who are you? Good. What is the transition from A-level to university content like in terms of complexity and difficulty? Is it hard, and is there extra support available? Now that is a really key question. I mean, I already mentioned that studying at university is slightly different to, well, actually very different to what you're doing now. And I think this transition is really important, and I think we all recognize that. To help you with that transition, we've got a very intensive tutorial program. So when you're starting in Portsmouth in the first week, you'll meet your personal tutor for the first time, and then you can't get rid of them. Effectively, you're going to see your tutor very often. We schedule tutorials weekly in the first teaching block, and also thereafter quite regularly. And that is group tutorials and one-to-one tutorials. So we've got both in place. So I think that already, and the idea of the tutorial is really to make that transition easier, to help you with things like, how do I do note-taking? When I'm in a lecture, how do I take notes? What do you mean by a scientific essay? What is that? And what is referencing? How do I do that? All of these kind of questions are things that we cover in the tutorial system and generally in graduate skills. On top of what we do, so what the lecturers do, we also have the faculty learning support tutors who you can access anytime, and they can help you with general study skills, but also if you're particularly struggling with elements like essay writing, with finding literature, with preparing presentations, with preparing for exams. They have tips for you. They can help you along with that. So how are we assessed? I hope there are not many presentations. Well, there are some, but it's not all presentations. So the assessment is quite varied. Not in the first year. First year, a lot of the assessments will be multiple choice tests. So basically exam style assessment, but that's not the only thing. We also start working on writing skills, essay writing, writing lab reports, really important in science. We do have some more practical skills, practical assessment in 2 of the modules. And we also have 1 presentation in the first year. But that is only in your tutor group, so with students who you know quite well by that time. Come second and third year, we do have a whole range of different assessments. Quite a lot in coursework, some also in examinations. Examinations can be multiple choice, or they can be essay-style examinations. We do have data analysis tasks, so where you're given a set of data and you have to basically go through them, analyze the data, interpret the results. We will have more lab write-ups, write-ups of field work. We do have some more general essays, depending on what you do. We have got, actually in second year, we have a experimental design task where you are planning an experiment. You're looking then at the health and safety aspects, ethics questions, as well as the actual experiment itself. So a whole lot of different things, but presentations are still part of that. And there's a reason for that. I was mentioning right at the start the importance of transferable skills, and communication is probably the one key skill. When I look at people who, for example, go on placements, and there's a question coming up about the placements that I will come to in a moment. People who go for the year-long placement that we offer as an option will have to apply with placement providers, and these places are very competitive. And what the placement providers are looking for, not only marks. I mean, marks are one aspect of that, but most importantly, the ability of students to communicate clearly in writing and orally. So presentations are a key part. Now, from my own perspective, when I started university, I hated presentations, probably even more than whoever asked the question does. And I got used to it eventually. And now I'm happy giving lectures to 300 students. So you are getting used to it. So the placement year, how valuable is the placement year that is offered, and what is it like? So our course is a sandwich course. That means you have the option to go for a year-long placement between second and third year. This is something that I think is very important if you want to go into industry, or very helpful. Let's put it like that. If you want to go into industry, a key aspect that employers are looking for is any kind of experience that you have. And it's very difficult to get work experience when you're only studying. So a placement, whether it's a year-long placement or whether it's a shorter placement over the summer, let's say between second and third year, will be really valuable. The year-long placement is something where we give students quite a bit of help in the first instance to figure out where they could do placements. So we've got a big table of something like 60 or so placement providers with details about what kind of placements they offer, in which areas, if they are paid or not paid, how you apply for them, anything like that. And not all students are interested in it, but we have had quite a bit of success. So we've had students who were successful in getting placements with very big players like GlaxoSmithKline, with Thermo Fisher. We've got people working with the Field Studies Council. So it's definitely something that our students are quite competitive in. When they are applying, I did have a chat with a student who is on the placement with GlaxoSmithKline, and it's fascinating to see what he's up to. So he's involved in one of the main production lines, and he's been given positions of quite some responsibility for that, which I didn't expect for an undergraduate student, but it's fantastic. It's a fantastic work experience. He's now thinking of to apply for the Future Leader program, which is again highly competitive, but obviously has very good chance of getting to that. So what field trips can we do on the course? That depends a lot on your interests and your choices. We normally would run a field trip already in the first year, but this may be difficult this year. So we are probably looking at field trips, maybe apart from some local ones, rather in second year. In second year, if you're choosing the environmental stream, part of that is a week-long field trip. So one week residential field trip, where we normally go to Slapton. So that's in Devon. Where there's a chance to look at a number of different environments. So it's a field station, and they've got experience in all sorts of different environments. And it really allows you to practice your sampling skills and analysis skills in a number of different environments. And on top of that, there are smaller field trips that we do more around Portsmouth and surrounding areas. Does the course contain a lot of statistics? Yes. Is it worth preparing statistics and data managing with any kind of online courses? Certainly, yes. It's not that, obviously we will teach you, starting with basic statistics. So it's not that we require you to come with a knowledge in statistics. On the other hand, statistics and generally data science is becoming a more and more important aspect of biology. Statistics has been important in many areas of biology for a while, but what we see now in biology is that we are overwhelmed with data. It's no longer the lack of data, it's the amount of data that is becoming the problem. So being able to work with data, being able to analyze data, is increasingly an important skill in biology. We've just this year hired a bioinformatician for that reason, because we want to make sure that we equip our students more and more, better and better for this area. So we start with statistics, basic statistics in the first year. We also start with teaching R in the first year. And we then continue with more advanced statistics in second year and some bioinformatics in third year as well. So coming back to the question, preparation for that, there are quite a large number of really good courses, free online courses. If you think that this is an area you would like to know more about, then the more you can learn about, the more you can practice it, the better. Here we got a reading list that you would recommend. Or do you suggest I just read my A-level textbooks and keep this? Yeah. So I mean, this is in a way a question similar to what has been coming up before. A reading list as such, not. We do recommend one general textbook, and if you want to get that already now, then that's absolutely fine. It's called Sadava, Life, the Science of Biology. So that is a general biology textbook for that will serve you well in the first year, but also thereafter. Of course, we go further than that in many topic areas in second and third year, but it provides a really good background in many areas of biology. And you may find it's nicely written as well. So you may just find that you open up a page and just want to read on because you're interested in it. So that would be one way. The other thing is, as I said, there are lots of good websites, publicly available websites that allow you to explore biology. And yes, look back at your A-level textbooks. There's lots of stuff in there that is really useful to know. Good. And then a question, what's it like living and studying in a big city? Now, whether you call Portsmouth a big city probably depends on where you're from in the moment. I think anybody coming from London would phrase the question differently and would rather ask, what is it like living in a small town? Portsmouth, I think, is in a way kind of best of both worlds. In terms of size, it's large enough to be a city. It has a city feel around it, but it's small enough so that the students play a really major part in the city. We've got about 20,000 students, so they make up a large part of the population. And so it feels quite often like a student town. Being on the coast, of course, has its advantages. And certainly our students make use of that. And I think generally it's a nice place to live in. Our students really, the feedback that we get from our students is very positive about it. What is your favorite module on the course? Obviously, I'm biased with that respect. As a developmental biologist, and developmental biologist is, of course, the best topic in biology, I would have to go for the genes and development module in the third year. But it's really only for that reason. There are quite a number of really attractive modules. And as I mentioned before, I think one of the attractions in Portsmouth is we really focus very much on research-informed teaching. In particular, once you get to second and third year, you're taught by people who are active researchers in the respective fields. So they know their stuff and they know the current literature. In the third year, you may quite often find that we are talking about publications that came out in the last month. And so this is something that already makes, I think, any of our subject areas very interesting and very attractive. Good. So as we have in the moment no question coming up, I would just like to talk a little bit more about how studies at university are organized, because that's something, again, which is different from what you know. So you might have heard about things like modules, and you probably have seen what that is on the website. So the course is organized into 3 years. Each year, you have to do what's called credits, 120 credits. So that's basically items, some units of learning. And each module, each subdivision of the course carries a certain number of credits. Most of our modules carry 20 credits, so that means you have to do 6 of the modules each year. The one exception is in the final year where your project is 40 credits. So these are the kind of modules. And as I said, in the first year, all of the modules, all 6 modules that you're doing are core. In the second year, we have one core module that's research skills in biology. That's where you make sure that you're getting all the advanced skills that you need, no matter what subject area you're focusing on. But then the rest is your choice. So you will have a wide range of options. Most of the modules that you can choose from are within biology. So subject areas like microbiology, genetics, cell biology, community ecology. But then you also have a chance to do some modules that are offered by other departments within science. So we've got a development module, for example, that's shared with biomedical science. And we've got a psychology module shared with psychology. And you can also do non-biological subjects depending on what you want to qualify for, where your interests lie for after graduation. So you've got a business module that is run by the business school, and we have a teaching module. And you also have the chance to learn a foreign language. In the third year, all of the modules that you can choose from are run within our school. But again, you've got, in that case, free choice apart from the project. These modules really cover the areas that reflect our research strengths. We've got quite strong research in molecular biology. And we've got 2 large research centers, the Center for Enzyme Innovation. You might have heard about the plastic-eating enzyme in the news. So that is one of our centers. And the other one is the European Xenopus Resource Center, which is one of the largest centers in the world for amphibia research. In this case, using amphibia as models, in particular for biomedical research. So that's really strength in molecular and cellular biology. We've got the Institute of Marine Sciences. Being at the coast, of course, has a big advantage there. And also biology students can take some of the marine modules. And we've got a quite large grouping now in areas of ecology and evolution, including also microbiology. How many teachers or lecturers will you have? Now, altogether, we've got around 30 staff in the school, and in all likelihood, you will meet most of them, if not all of them. It depends, of course, on the choices that you're taking in second and third year. So if you're doing the more molecular and cellular direction, you will meet quite a lot of the biochemistry lecturers in addition to the biology lecturers. If your interest more is in ecology, then you will probably hear more from the marine biology lecturers in addition to the biology lecturers. But I think because we've got a relatively small number of staff, one of the big advantages in Portsmouth is you will come to know the staff, and we know you. Good. Now, good. Good. So I think in terms of questions, we are starting to come to a more quiet phase. If you've got some immediate questions, do Portsmouth biology graduates have easy access to masters and PhD? Now that is a really good point. Let's start with the masters. We do run currently 3 master's courses. One is the MSc, so Master of Science in Applied Aquatic Biology, which relates very much to our strengths in marine biology. We do, together with Pharmacy and Biomedical Science, run a Biotechnology Masters. And we are running for the whole faculty the Master in Research. That's the MRes. In Science and Health. And that one is very different from the other ones because that is very much like the first year of a PhD. So it's solely focused on a research project. So this is where you're working in very close contact with your supervisor and you're working as part of a research team. quite a number of our graduates get onto that. There are entry criteria based on your marks. The criterion is normally a 2-1, but then some 80 or 85% of our graduates achieve a 2-1 or a first. So that's not normally restrictive. PhDs are, of course, more of a commitment. The PhD is, when you're doing it full-time, a 3-year course, and very different from anything else that you're doing, because this is actually nothing to do with studying at all. In a PhD, you're working as a researcher. For the PhD, there are a number of options. There is the self-funded option, and in that case, access is very easy. For the funded option, which is the one when you're looking at the 3-year degree that you obviously want to go for, if at all possible, their places are limited. We do have a number of university-funded studentships, but not that many. We are also part of a consortium together with other universities in the biosciences, where we offer PhDs. So that's a doctoral training program financed by the research councils. There are also chances to apply for funding sometimes from charities or from other organizations. But places for PhDs principally are more limited than for the masters. How many modules will you have going at one time? In the first year, all the modules run the whole year. So you've got 6 modules going all at the same time, but for the whole year. Second and third year are semesterized. So in that case, you've got in the second year, 3 modules in the first teaching block, 3 in the second teaching block. In the third year, your project runs throughout, and you've got 2 other modules in the first teaching block, 2 in the second teaching block. How much lab work and practicals do we do? Again, that depends firstly on the year of study, and secondly on your choices. Some of the choice modules have more practical elements than others. In the first year, one of the modules is called experimental biology, and I guess the hint is in the name. That one has a very large practical component. So there you will do quite a number of practicals. I think it comes down to probably across the year, one every 2 weeks. Another module that is very heavily based on practicals is microbiology, both in first year and in second year. So again, you will have quite a number of practicals there. In second year, microbiology is very much practical. Something like community ecology and residential field trip has a week-long field trip. So again, that has got very much in that case a field aspect, but also some lab work included in that. Some of the other modules, I think pretty much all of the second year modules will have some practical aspect, but some more than others. Typically, how many students are there to a tutor? Now that is obviously an important question to ask any kind of university that you're applying for, because what universities understand a tutorial group differs a lot. We typically look at 6 to 10 students in a tutorial group. We hope to limit it to 8 students this year. If it's fewer, even better. I think 6 to 8 is probably the best number for a tutorial group. You may find that in some other universities there are 30 students to a tutor, which I think changes the whole dynamic of the tutorial system quite a lot. Good, so just give it a moment to see if there are any more questions coming up. And other than that, I think we are ready to wrap up the session. Okay, so just to summarize, really, why should you consider biology if you're still in doubts about that? It's a fascinating subject. It's by far the most complex of the sciences and the most interesting of the sciences, and it is the science of the 21st century, really at the core of addressing many of the global challenges. There's another question. How many hours per day of teaching do we get? Varies. It varies considerably. One of the things that because we've got so many practicals and other sessions, it's difficult to find a consistent timetable. So you may be used to a very strict timetable. Every week is the same. That's not going to be like that when you're coming to Portsmouth. And there are some weeks that are very full, where you may have something like 30 hours scheduled, and other weeks where it's maybe only 10 to 15 hours. Generally, in first year, you will have more scheduled hours than in second and third year. But in third year, in particular, when the number of scheduled hours goes down, you will have the project to do. Is Portsmouth more of an independent study university or lecture teaching based university? Principally, more lecture teaching based, but independent study is a core element of anywhere where you go for higher education. So when it comes to, let's maybe answer the question slightly differently. When we are looking at assessments and what we ask in assessments, in the first year, we only ask for content that we cover in the lectures. So with that respect, it's very much lecture-based. When it comes to second and third year, you will easily pass if you only know what is covered in the lectures. But to get to the higher grades, to 1 and first, we expect that you look beyond the lecture content, that you are inspired by what we tell you. We also give you some guidance for additional reading, but we also hope that you are interested in particular topics and take up the extra reading on your own. Certainly with how the teaching looks like for next year, more and more we will guide you towards reading, towards extra reading, towards finding content, and then use the face-to-face time to really talk about it, to discuss it. Are most classes taught in the morning or in the afternoon? Both. Principally teaching can go on between 9 and 6. So that's the core hours. Occasionally, but very occasionally, we go beyond that. But we try to avoid that as much as we can, also in our own interests. But yeah, there's no particular time that is favored, so it can really be any time on the day. Can we access the lab when we need and when is best for us? I wish that was the case. So this is something where universities, the whole way of life has changed a lot compared when I was a student. So when I was a student, when I did the placement in the research institute, at times I was the only one at night in the institute. As an undergraduate student, that would be absolutely impossible nowadays for health and safety reasons. So health and safety of all employees and of course of the students is absolutely paramount. So that means whenever you are in a lab, and doing work in the lab, you have to be supervised, just to make sure that you don't endanger yourself or others. That means that access to the labs is more difficult, not freely available. When it comes to the practicals, they are anyway scheduled. So you have to come to the scheduled sessions and that's it. When it comes to the undergraduate project, if you're doing a practical project, and you are, let's say, in one of the research labs, then principally you can access the lab in normal working hours, as long as there is an academic somewhere around to have an eye on you. So you don't have to have somebody holding your hands all the time, but there needs to be somebody close by just to make sure that you are safe. Good. I mean, thanks a lot for all of the questions. I think that was a really, really active session. In which building of the campus is biology taught? Several buildings. So when it comes to the labs, let's start with the teaching labs. The teaching labs are in King Henry Building. Research labs are in King Henry Building, St. Michael's Building, and at the Institute of Marine Sciences. Lectures can be taught pretty much anywhere in the university because we've got pooled rooms, and so we, for example, in King Henry Building don't have a very large lecture series. They are reasonably large, but not large enough for the very large first-year classes. So there we go to different buildings. But then if you have a look at the map, of the university around Portsmouth. The university buildings are actually very close together. And that gives it almost the feel of a campus university, but being located in the center of town, which is a bit of the best of both worlds. What is the future demand for biology graduates like? Well, I mean, nobody can predict the future, but certainly we are just in the middle of a global problem where the answers will come from biology. So I think that gives you already an idea. And as I said at the start, many of the global challenges that we are facing, being it health, emerging diseases, as we just are experiencing, but also health problems to do with the increasingly aging population, like me. These are areas where we need solutions, and these solutions will come from biological research. When you're looking at the environmental sector, the whole issue of climate change, how to cope with that, how to secure food production, sustainable food production, how we can preserve biodiversity in a world where we have increasing human populations. All of these kind of questions really require biologists, not only biologists, but biologists certainly will take a major part in that. And when you're looking at the growth of industries, the biotechnology industry is one of the quickest growing areas in the UK and internationally. Good. Okay, so there's a thank you and excellent. So thanks very much for your comments, and really thank you very much for all of the questions. Obviously, these sessions depend on your questions. I hope you found the answers reasonably helpful, and certainly I hope to see many of you in Portsmouth, being it this year or next year. Good. So looks like we are done. Okay, so just a very quick thanks to everybody. All the best, of course, for your results coming up this year. And as I say, I hope to see many of you in October.